The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Starting off today with the price of Bitcoin. As usual, following the Bitcoin conference, as is always the case, the price of Bitcoin is down. The price of Bitcoin is down 1.6% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 104,490, a high of 106,430, and a low of 103,460. That's $1 for 957 Satoshis, just on the wrong side of the 1,000 Satoshi barrier. Actually, the right side, I say. As said in the description to the show, we're going to go ahead and recap the Las Vegas Bitcoin Conference, Bitcoin 2025. I was fortunate to be invited by one of the organizers through a friend of a friend, and it was a really great conference. It was bigger than any Bitcoin conference I've ever been to before. I think the last large one I went to was in Miami. Seems like a few years ago, though. And it's only gotten bigger. Large conference, tons of booths, incredible amount of attendees, and lots of suits. Let's just check out some of the pictures. Everybody had their camera gear. These guys had a whole trolley full of camera gear. There was lots of vloggers and YouTubers. They had Instagram 360 cameras. They had big cameras, small cameras. I saw one person with a full Steadicam rig at the conference. There's the poker chip logo of Bitcoin 2025. There's the Greenpeace skull, now a Bitcoiner treasure that they love. I had a fun food court sign with a Bitcoin pizza. This is a Trump, kind of in poor taste, really. It's from the attempted assassination attempt on the president, but now he's holding up a Bitcoin when he said fight, fight, fight. Not really in great taste. This is a Bitcoin chia pet that you could have got for $40. It's kind of plain looking, though. And they had lots of art, including Buy Bitcoin, the yellow legal pad held up behind the Federal Reserve Secretary, and it's become an ink artwork, oil painting, I suppose. Make Bitcoin, not friends. There's that guy again. Orange was everywhere. Everyone had orange suits. All of the booths had orange hats. Orange is kind of out, if you asked me. It's tough to be a fashion plate here in Bitcoin. But it did seem like orange, everything was very played out at the conference, as you see here with the orange Gemini Cybertruck in the corner. The price of Bitcoin was $110,000 at the beginning of the conference, now holding on around 105 to 106. You can see that drum, that was Ross Ulbricht's drum from when he was not in prison. They were also auctioning off lots of Ross's stuff from prison, which was a little weird. Here we have more of the Bitcoin art. I saw this excellent Banksy Bitcoin logo one, Bitcoin Batman. There's a lot of Bitcoin skateboards, Monopoly Man, lots of Andy Warhol references. This is my friend Hitomi's felt Bitcoin. She knits and sews all of these individually. It's pretty cool. They had these Bitcoin jerseys. These were pretty fun. I managed to get the baseball one. My brother got a hockey one. I saw a lot of people with the basketball one, and a lot of people were wearing these around. We had kind of a whole Bitcoin team vibe going at the conference. It was pretty fun. They had lots of mascots like this, guy in a Bitcoin suit. Kind of feel bad for him. Peter Schiff was there, as they said in the chat earlier. You could go to this wealth management services company, and they say it's a Peter Schiff company, and there was Peter Schiff right there, taking a lot of credit for Bitcoin. He gave a speech at the conference where he said, you know, if it wasn't for me, a lot of you wouldn't have Bitcoin, kind of patting himself on the back for being a forever critic of Bitcoin. Very strange. They had a lot of panels over here with these large block letters like revitalizing rural America with Bitcoin mining. And to me, it just looked a lot like that old banner from Fight Club. Did you know? You can use old motor oil to fertilize your lawn. I got up early one day to hear the vice president speak. I stood in a long line. I carried no bag, no lighters, no vaporizers, No negative items of any kind. I had just the tripod, just the iPhone camera, and my little box of microphones. I was very fortunate, thanks to some friendly Secret Service agents and one slobbery dog. I got to hear the vice president speak. Mainly, he talked about stablecoins. He talked about the regulatory environment of the previous administration, placing tons of blame on them, despite the fact that they've been gone for about 5 months now, and we're still waiting to see what they do about actually codifying anything into law. The vice president mentioned something he called the Genius Bill, that he said they were going to somehow get through Congress, and that would provide regulatory clarity. As you know, all the things the president has done so far have been executive orders, so they could be simply reversed. Having the vice president speak at the conference received an incredible amount of press attention. The entire press was there. Everyone had clips from it on all of the nightly news shows and so forth. And as it says here in Axios, Vance doubles down on crypto support. He was very much in favor of Bitcoin and stablecoins, saying crypto is a hedge against bad policymaking from Washington, no matter what party is in control, and that he's, quote, here to say loud and clear with President Trump, crypto finally has a champion in the White House. He also talked about the death of Operation Choke Point 2.0, where they were attempting to crack down on the crypto industry. He says that is over now. Donald Trump's sons, Eric and Donald Jr., also spoke at the Bitcoin conference. And this is again where the conference got a little weird. As it says here in the Financial Times, or the International Times perhaps, Trump's sons started crypto venture after being rejected by banks. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but we've gone a little bit away from what Andreas used to talk about with Bitcoin when he talked about banking the unbanked. And he talked about developing nations and people who have horrible inflationary currencies that just steal money from them, and they can't produce any kind of savings. That was the low end. That was the bottom of Bitcoin. That was retail. That was below retail. That was things that we hoped would happen. It doesn't feel like that's happening right now. The current phase of adoption is clearly bank and rich people adoption. That's what we saw a lot of at this conference. As you can see here, Eric Trump is wearing the suit coat with no tie. I saw a lot of those at the conference, and they were all very clear they'd just taken off the tie briefly. You know, they were going to put it back on. But they talked here about how they had trouble with banks. So we're not exactly rescuing the little people. We're rescuing big, powerful, rich people who had trouble with their banks, perhaps because of what they were doing. I don't know. But they celebrated it. They said a lot of libertarian-esque type things about how they were against banks. But it's a lot more like they wanted to make their own banks now so that they could control things and make the rules and do whatever they want, rather than trying to help people, trying to bring people up, trying to normalize the world, reducing the powers of inflation and government spending to destroy your savings. That was not what the conference was about, and apparently not what Bitcoin's about anymore as well. I can hear the Bcashers in the audience. I can hear you saying, oh, your return, but it does make sense. It can't just be digital gold. It needs to be a currency as well. It needs to reach people. But we have reached a point where the people who nominally are in charge of Bitcoin, they make the speeches, they go to the conferences, they shake the hands, the big people, they believe that it is digital gold only. They are not interested in banking the unbanked. They're not interested in the developing world, and they're not interested in censorship-free transaction, the ability to send money anywhere in the world without using a controlled third party or a questionable third party. Those talking points, those philosophies are gone. So that's a big change as well. It was not like that before. Excuse me. Moving on. Michael Saylor spoke at the Bitcoin conference. I was fortunate. I was listening to him on the ride home. I had to get out of there early. It was just way too crowded and out of control. I was actually really impressed with Michael Saylor. Previously, we've been critical of him and his easy strategy, pirate at 40, get as many Bitcoin as you can by leveraging the existing financial market, selling stocks, selling bonds, selling fancy debt instruments that we don't understand in order to buy more Bitcoin. But he delivered a really incredible speech. I suggest you check it out. It's probably on the Bitcoin Magazine or the Bitcoin Conference YouTube feed. And one of the things Saylor said that I really agreed with is he acknowledged the power of AI. He said that previously, you would need a lawyer. Previously, you would need an accountant. Now you didn't quite need those things. He said that for everyone who works for him, before they ask a lawyer, before they ask an expert, he demands and he trains them to type it into the AI first. I thought that was incredibly on point. I've said much the same thing to many people, but it was great to hear it from him. Although what he was really pitching, and this is a little back and forth, you might agree, he said basically that everyone should create a corporation. Everyone should create a corporation and hold Bitcoin. You should sell shares in that corporation. You should leverage your house, anything that you own, to buy more Bitcoin. And he was talking about generational wealth and the difference between investing a little bit each year versus getting it all up front and trying to buy more with Bitcoin. It was inspiring in a way, like his demand and his goal of this wealth and what he thinks he can do with it or passing it on to other generations. I'm not sure. A lot of it had a lot of logic jumps. He was like, the old people should just give their money to the youth and let the youth invest it. And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. Bitcoin, this is a unique time period. But in general, the old people aren't just going to do that. They have their own bills, their own things they want to buy. He talked about how much further the kids could go into the future with the old people's money. But again, not acknowledging the old people having medical bills, their existing bills, them wanting to buy stuff themselves, live their own lives. He really sacrificed a lot of things, had a lot of shortcuts, but he was right on about the AI. It was very interesting about what he said about trying to get trusts and trying to build these Bitcoin instruments for yourself and for your family. I'm checking with the chat. Chikezi says, yes, Saylor was on point with the AI narrative. I agree totally. He also says that if Bitcoin gives the super rich superpowers, they will use that to suppress the masses more. And it does seem like it is a point, not that we could stop Bitcoin. As we said last week, it's this asteroid that's hit the dinosaurs. We've got the asteroid here. And, we can't stop it. But yeah, maybe it's going the wrong way. Maybe it's giving people other power. Starship says, Bitcoin only becomes a currency after it's universally valued. So that could be, we still have to get to the other side of Bitcoin, and maybe these finance guys can help us get there. Schrodinger also says, Saylor said, everyone should ask the AI how to move to the right country and incorporate and raise equity and debt. He really did. And I don't know, I haven't started doing it yet, but I understand what he's saying, and I understand what he's saying as well about the AI. He really was right. He's like, you have access to every book ever written. You have access to all the lawyers ever written, all the documents, all the insurance, all the real estate. You can check which country you want to live in. And he was really right on. It was a really good speech. So I definitely check that out. Then we had at the very end of the conference, the Ross Ulbricht speech. As you know, Ross was freed by President Trump after the success of the right-wing Bitcoiners in donating a large amount of money to the president and probably a large amount of votes with the Libertarian voting bloc, amongst others. This has led to the freedom of Ross. Let's hear just a little bit of Ross Ulbricht from his speech, Freedom, Decentralization, and Unity at Bitcoin 2025, care of Bitcoin Magazine YouTube channel.
And you're not alone. You are part of something much bigger. This is bigger than Bitcoin. This is bigger than crypto. Freeing me took many, many people from all walks of life coming together and saying, this is not right. It took many people just like you saying, we care about freedom. And keeping somebody like Ross in a cage until he dies is a threat to freedom itself. It took President Trump recognizing that an injustice had been done, and that so many of you demanded that I be freed. I am so thankful that we elected him and that he is who he is. Yep. He's a man who does what he says he'll do. He said he would free me, and he did. Period. He's a man of integrity. So a few years ago when I was...
Well, and again, we've talked about this on the show. The real problem here is that the drug war is not over. I don't think that President Trump freed Ross because he looked at the situation and thought it was unjust, or he thought that Ross shouldn't rot in a cell. It's very unclear. It seems that President Trump freed Ross because he got paid. He had a quid pro quo, a this for that. They paid him well. They got the votes. That's how it works in politics. Sometimes you don't usually get it, exactly what you want, like an exactly even trade. But it does seem in this case like they got what they were asking for. So one promise kept does not make one a man of integrity, Starship says in the chat. And he also said that famous drug dealer speaking to bankers about freedom. Chikezi also agrees. He says, not sure about Trump being a man of integrity. It is a tough position. I agree with the chat. I also wanted Ross to be free, but I pictured it more as the end of the drug war, when people would say that the Silk Road wasn't a bad website because it allowed people to trade large amounts of cannabis for large amounts of money without violence, and that was a good thing. And that generally, as a libertarian type thing, you want people to be free to do what they want with their bodies, free to spend what they want with their money. So that would be okay. But it's not like Trump said, Ross, you should go restart the Silk Road, or that it was laudable or wonderful work. So it's a little strange. I do celebrate Ross for not having anything to sell yet, as someone reminded me on Twitter, yet. But yes, Ross talked about freedom, decentralization, and unity. He talked about the power and strength of the Bitcoin movement, saying, and I believe this is true, he said, the Bitcoin movement became so powerful that it came back around and freed Ross. So that was really incredible. It was really neat to see him speak at the Bitcoin convention. Check out worldcryptonetwork.com, where we've got 4,404 videos you can check out, including short videos, which young people like, but old people don't. Jack Dorsey confirms Bitcoin Lightning payments will be enabled by default for all Square sellers. This is a huge move by Square. It's great to see that Jack is doing this, continuing to move his company forward and allowing all sellers to accept Lightning payments. We'd hoped for this for a long time, and during this Bitcoin convention, we got it. Michael Saylor calls on-chain proof of reserves a bad idea, rules it out for strategy over security concerns. This caused a major backlash in the Bitcoin community. People were upset, and Michael Saylor saying that providing proof of reserves was a security problem. It's not a security problem with Bitcoin directly. He might think that it's a security problem because it would reveal if they stored it in one large pile or many piles. There might be some kind of information that the people could glean from it. It's a very niche and very edge case, but it does seem to once again defeat kind of the point of Bitcoin. The point of Bitcoin is you could prove how many you had, as opposed to the mortgage crisis when they put the bad loans in the boxes and labeled them good loans. With Bitcoin, you couldn't do that. So it is disappointing to see Michael Saylor refuse to provide proof of reserves. Even like he says, though, what would it matter if those reserves were backed by loans that could come due at any day, and then he'd have to sell them all anyway. So you'd have proof right up until the point when they had to sell to cover the loans. As it says here on DL News, Bitcoin backers pounce on Michael Saylor after he brushes off audits as a bad idea. Yes, he did get a lot of pushback on this, but he's had pushback on other things before, and judging from his speech, which again was quite incredible, I don't think he cares. He really only seemed to care about getting more Bitcoin and leveraging the existing financial system, leveraging investors, leveraging friends, family, anything he could do to get that more Bitcoin. So I don't care. The audits don't seem to matter that much. Meanwhile, on the other side of the coin, Jack Mallers and 21 Capital have announced that they will publish a proof of reserve. So we have a continued little bit of separation between 21 Capital and MicroStrategy or Strategy. Just a little bit, not that much. Schrodinger's Destiny in the chat says, Lynn Aldine described how debt was breaking the whole financial system when Jack Mallers and Saylor told everyone to get into lots of debt. That is correct. They have been saying we should get into lots of debt. And it is very strange. We had such, I mean, in the old days, like everyone, sure, no one wants to say this is financial advice, but don't take it all that. Now it seems like everyone suddenly has financial advice for you. And it's all based on the idea that Bitcoin will go up and up and up. And it's really interesting because while I do think it will go up, I don't know if it goes up in the same percentage that it went up before. So it seems a little disingenuous to say to people now, well, if you're in the first year, you had a 10,000% up, and then a 2,000, and then a 200, and now you might get 20%. 20% is great, but if you have $100, you'll have 120. If you have $120 million, if you have $100 million, you get $120 million. That's great, obviously. But it still matters a lot how much you have to come in, even if you are doing this Saylor plan of, I don't know, selling stock in your Bitcoin thing and getting more debt and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, all of that, you're going to get 20%. I mean, it's still awesome. Do the Bitcoin thing, but it just seems kind of radical and aggressive compared to what we used to do. And we certainly weren't in the same power level as the vice president or the president's sons or Michael Saylor, but they all had one message for you. And it was really kind of base. It was how much stuff you were going to buy with your Bitcoin. It wasn't so much about financial freedom or peace of mind or true liberty or the ability to take care of yourself, those kind of things. It was like, you're going to get a mansion and you're going to get a really fast car. But again, you'll sell your Bitcoin to do that. And I thought we just went through that Michael Saylor can never sell his Bitcoin. If he ever sells his Bitcoin, he'll feel terrible, right? Because it goes up and up and up. So you basically, it's like that thing they used to get mad about with the EU guy. Like, you will own nothing and be happy. Maybe that's true. Maybe owning things in the time of Bitcoin leads to unhappiness. It's kind of Buddhist what they've got going on. But I don't see it as ringing true from the capitalists. The capitalists are suddenly Buddhists. They want to keep the money forever. Finally, we had this great story here. They asked ladies on the street, what would you rather have, one whole Bitcoin or like a month of free Starbucks? Let's see what they said.
If you had to choose between free Starbucks for a whole month or one Bitcoin, what would you choose?
Starbucks, probably.
I would agree with Starbucks.
Starbucks, better choice.
Free Starbucks.
Okay, why is that?
I've heard stuff about Bitcoin. For some people, it's profitable. For other people, it's not. So it's a 50-50, and I don't have time to take risks and chances on stuff like that.
If you had to choose.
So again, kind of the failing of retail Bitcoin adoption. Most people seem to think that Bitcoin's a scam. They're afraid of it. They certainly don't know the price or the value of it. They're not tracking it. To say a month of free Starbucks, I guess around maybe $10 a day, 30 days, maybe $3,000 compared to $100,000 Bitcoin. Obviously, we all know that's a bad choice, a bad decision. But it's interesting to see these ladies say the opposite and say that the reasons why, and they don't trust Bitcoin, even for just the obvious value trade-in, let alone having it hold its value or go up. So it's an incredible disconnect between these business guys and these finance bros who have pretty much taken the Bitcoin Kool-Aid all the way in, and they're like, it goes up forever. And your average man or woman on the street who says, I don't trust it. I just don't trust it still. Meanwhile, we have more and more friends in the banking industry. Charles Schwab, CEO, says that Bitcoin and crypto buying is coming for their 37 million clients. And it has been just so funny this whole time. We're always telling people, and hey, you should get Bitcoin, and they tell their financial advisors, and they say, I don't know, and they can't recommend it. Now they're going to turn that on, and wait till you see all of a sudden they start recommending it. And again, it's just so funny for people who have been in this for a little while and been told that you're an idiot and you're a moron and that it's rat poison and it'll kill your portfolio. And now all the banking people, all the investment people are all in. Tether announces that it owns more than 100,000 Bitcoin and more than 50 tons of gold. Tether has also been investing in large companies like BlackRock and other investment companies in the United States, holding tons of U.S. treasuries. They are truly a powerhouse of a company. Keep an eye on Tether. I wouldn't want to be the company or country or person that disagrees with them. 50 tons of gold. And finally today, James Howells from the United Kingdom, still chasing his 8,000 Bitcoin lost in a landfill, as we've discussed many times. Most likely at this point, the hard drives have been compressed. The data has been smashed. Even if you could find it, it's likely not there. It's taken him long enough, but he's finally come to the idea to tokenize the 1,675 coins as ordinals. Yes, he should have done this a long time ago. He should have formed a company where they could have tokenized, inflated the value, and tried to get those landfill Bitcoins. It would be a big investment for people. You could make a ton of money, or you could lose it all if they don't get the Bitcoins in the landfill, which I don't think they will. So that's about it for today. Checking out the chat, they say, Starship says, what's big and yellow and kills you if it falls out of a tree? 50 tons of gold. And Glenn says Tether should diversify away from U.S. bonds. That is part of the power of Tether these days. What they hold, what they choose to hold, will make a big difference, especially with such an incredibly large bankroll. What did you guys think of the conference? Anything in the chat? Let's see a little bit more. I can scroll through the old Twitter feed, see what else I put out on there. After the vice president, they had a record-setting attempt to spend the most Bitcoin transactions in a day. They broke the record of 4,000 transactions at 4,001. They had a special whale area through there. They did not let me in. I said, how do you know I'm not a whale? Crypto Graffiti was hiding some art near the Venetian. So that was pretty neat. You could go get that. And there's a lot of other Bitcoin art. My friend Kenneth Moon did this at the Bitcoin convention. This lady had cool Nikes. They said Strategy B on the back of them, and they were, of course, bright orange. Like I said, bright orange was definitely the theme of the conference. It doesn't ring that cool anymore, though. It used to be kind of standoutish, and it was me and the Bitcoin Not Bombs guy in our bright orange shirts, but now even Microplanet, or whatever it is, the Japanese company, Metaplanet, they have $1 billion in Bitcoin, and they had many bright orange safety hats passed out to their whole crew. There was a print available of the Dr. Back pill piece by Crypto Graffiti. Very cool. Cypherpunk Now came all the way from Prague with this Bitcoin is the pin, not the bubble. Bitcoin's going to pop the bubble. So pretty cool. They had an open source stage. I saw Peter Todd speak there. It was pretty fun. The two guys on the panel, they both had companies and skin involved in the game. Peter Todd was just there to mess with them and criticize their companies. It was pretty fun. They had a pretty small open source stage, but they also had a nice little open source kind of industry room right next to it as well. I saw this cowboy fella again with the orange suit coat. A lot of people were leaning in to the Bitcoin orange. More art here from Yonat Vox. Very cool stuff. A little Bitcoin slot machine. She did some Bitcoin pigs. It was pretty neat. Trace Mayer reappeared at the conference, making a keynote address, having a debate with Peter Schiff, and appearing here on a show that must be called, I can only assume, Bitcoin for Millennials. But welcome back to Trace. Looks like he had an excellent reception at the convention. Unfortunately, I was unable to see him. I just didn't see him around. Like I said, they broke the record, 4,001 payments in a single day. I do laud the conference for having Bitcoin payments as an option and focusing on them. It was good to see that. This is a summary by Lysander at Under Coercion, what he learned from the conference. Here's just a little bit.
Stablecoins.
Stablecoins.
From stablecoin, stablecoin, stablecoin.
Stablecoins.
Stablecoin.
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 Stablecoin for
Yes, they
Bitcoin.
like stablecoins at this conference. Tim Draper says $250,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year. But if you go out 10 years, the answer is infinity against the dollar because there won't be a dollar. Shout out to Tim Draper, who, like Mad Bitcoins, has also called for infinity value to Bitcoin. Schrodinger's Destiny says Nigel Farage spoke at the convention, says he wants a UK Bitcoin treasury, lower tax rates, and he might even become the new prime minister. He is very right-wing, though. DJ Rootsall says in the chat, all the Bitcoin people you wanted to meet decided for the Oslo Freedom Forum. Yes, it is a hard sell, I think, to get Bitcoiners to come to the United States these days. I heard that there were a lot of Bitcoiners that came to this event that didn't come to Nashville or didn't come to Miami. The central location of Vegas is pretty easy for people to get to, but the current political environment in the United States, it's possible a lot of international visitors decided not to go. I didn't see that many people. I saw maybe 2 or 3 people who recognized me and said, hey, Mad Bitcoins, but they were 2 or 3 really cool people, so that was nice. Caitlin Long joins us in welcoming back Trace Mayer. It was good to have him back. Let's see what else we've got. I found this magnet with kind of a Mad Hatter hat with a bee on the brim, and it's from a group that's trying to teach children about Bitcoin. It's a Children for Bitcoin kind of group. It was pretty cool. Here's Crypto Graffiti showing off the new Bitcoin magazine that shows the Hal Finney Freedom Prize, which they're awarding to excellent Bitcoiners like Peter Maxwell and others. Ross made his speech. Like I said, I wanted it to be more about the drug war. It was kind of more about Ross. Later on that night, I was able to go to a show called Satoshi Nakamoto on Fremont Street. They played right there, and it was pretty cool to see. Jack Dorsey's block raised a 9.7% yield on its Bitcoin by routing payments through the Lightning Network. People have always theorized that you could make money using the Lightning Network. Now Jack Dorsey has proved it, which is pretty impressive. Here's a little bit of Satoshi Nakamoto. You can see right there. They were on the Fremont Street stage, right next to the Circa, playing cover songs. This is a pretty unique group of musicians, all Bitcoiners. I know Doug Benson on the keyboards, and this is Marnie Malty on the bass. He was one of the first people to email Satoshi Nakamoto. So pretty neat. There I am enjoying Satoshi Nakamoto. They gave me a t-shirt, and I got a cool poster as well. So it was pretty neat to see some Bitcoiners, guys wearing Satoshi shirt right there. More Bitcoiners here, rocking out on Fremont Street, Satoshi Nakamoto. So pretty fun end to the concert. Shout out to Mike Jarmuth, Muzz, who invited me and gave me some cool posters and a t-shirt. Can't beat that. So it was a pretty cool conference all in all. You know, it is what you make of it. It's, like I said, I mean, it's a success, right? Bitcoin is big and powerful, big money people, big bankers are interested. This is success. If Bitcoin didn't have a big conference like this, if we didn't have the interest of bankers and financial and rich people, we would be a failure. So you look at it and you say, wow, it's gotten so big. I don't know anybody. Nobody knows me. You know, you feel that kind of weird fish out of water thing in your own community. But at the same time, you look around and you say, this is success. All of these people have seen Bitcoin for the same thing that we saw it for. It was not a unique vision. Other people, Andreas, Adam Levine, all kinds of people, you in the audience, you all saw Bitcoin for what it was for. And we went out there, and now there's just thousands more of us. They might have just gotten in 6 months ago. They might have gotten in 2 years ago and think they're in for a long time. That kind of thing is still happening out there, but it is good to have them. Like, we need more people on our team. Just a little bit more from the Twitter account. Let us know in the chat, was anyone at the convention? Anyone considering going? It said here, it's obviously a high concept performance piece meant to be ironic. And it's Peter Schiff speaking at his wealth management services. Of course, you could have just bought Bitcoin. That would be much easier. They had a booth where you could buy fortune cookies and have your ad printed inside. This is probably what FTX used back in the day. I was really impressed when I opened a fortune cookie from my local Chinese shop, And it was, buy Bitcoin on FTX was my fortune, stuff like that. So, but yeah, again, shout out to Ross. Bitcoin grew into a movement so powerful that a decade later it came back around and freed me. It was a fun time to be there. And here we are at the Bitcoin group. Shout out to ChatGPT for making this cool graphic incorporating parts of the original Bitcoin group logo by Philippe into the graphic. Don't worry, Sheffield. I'm not too much under the weather, just kind of have to talk the whole episode here. I can't drink as much tea and water as usual, so it's pretty dry out here in the desert. We do have time for the Bitcoin Magic 8 Ball, the predictor, the source of all truth in this universe. We are down since the conference started. It was around 115, 110 on my picture. Now I think it's 105. This usually happens after Bitcoin conferences. Everyone gets all excited about Bitcoin. Michael Saylor tells you to go out there and start a company and build generational wealth, and you get all fired up. You come home, and it turns out, I don't know what it is, but I think that the big boys probably dump on us after the convention. They say, all those people ready to buy, let's drown them. So they knock the price down. So we are headed down right now. I think I'm bullish. I always think that we'll go up. I like these big 250K things. But let's ask the ball, will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? It is decidedly so. It is decidedly so. The ball has spoken. Starship Schrodinger says, just got to hang out at more fringe events as the party gets bigger. Glastonbury is still cool at the small stages. The big stages aren't what they were 30 years ago. I agree with that. And I would like to again promote the Majorca Blockchain Days. If you're in Europe, it's a short flight down to the Spanish island of Majorca. It's kind of the German Hawaii. And we have a very small event there, about 100 people. We just kind of sit at the pool, eat sandwiches, and talk about Bitcoin, like the old days. We had one or two finance people there a few years ago, and it was pretty fun. They didn't fit in. They were all talking about the upside and how much money and this and that. It is really all about the money these days. So it is really strange and disheartening. I wish Andreas was there. I wish they had another track of speakers like the Bitcoin community speakers or the Bitcoin philosophy speakers, or that they were trying to balance it out. I did get to talk to Juan Galt a little bit, friend of the show, and Juan was really on it. He really thought that the Democrats were not interested in working with crypto, so that they had to work with the Republicans, and the Republicans obviously are interested in working with crypto, so that's the way they had to go. I and others have been arguing for a more middle-of-the-road approach, trying to include Republicans and Democrats. But clearly, if the Democrats aren't engaging, and the Republicans are, and we're well down this road now, this is what we have. I do think there'll be a reaction, a bounce back in the future, if they continue to make crypto and Bitcoin into only Republican, only right-wing, only big business financial technology. I think that will lead to an obvious comeback on the other side when the liberals get back in power, if there are elections and so forth in the future. Starship Schrodinger's Destiny says that we might see 5 digits again this week, breaking out of the hundreds. That would be rough. But we'll see how it goes. Just thanks to everybody for joining us this week. Sorry we weren't able to get any guests. Everyone's likely very busy as summer is starting up, but we had a great time at the Bitcoin conference. Thanks again to David Bailey and the organizer of the convention who hooked us up with some tickets and allowed us to hang out there. Shout out to the Secret Service agents who allowed me to take my microphones and my tripod into the JD Vance speech. Although it's everywhere else on the internet, I do have my own recording of the JD Vance speech. I'll check it out. If it's any good, I'll upload it here to World Crypto Network, though it is on many other channels. You can certainly find it. I also filmed the president's sons speaking about crypto. I might upload that as well. And what else did I film? I got some good interviews with the artists. I got interviews with Chris from Majorca Blockchain Days. And what was the other panel I filmed? I think that might have been it. But but there's lots of great stuff on the conference YouTube. They live streamed the whole conference. So if there's a panel you really wanted to see, whether it was Ross Ulbricht, Michael Saylor, who was excellent. Also, shout out to Jack Mahlers. He had a great speech as well. He was very fired up about holding your Bitcoin. His plan is that you're going to be able to borrow against your Bitcoin. This way, you'll never have to sell it. A lot of neat financial instruments out there this week, but it seems like a lot for somebody that just tries to, break even and hodl. So they say Schrodinger's Destiny says interviews are more interesting than the stage that were filmed by the pros. Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't even bother trying to film the Ross thing. The room was really packed. And like you say, they did have a professional videographer on it. But I've got a few interviews and I'll hope to upload those soon. I got really good audio again from these little DJI microphones. They come in a little black case and they charge in there. They have a transmitter and 2 microphones. They're fantastic. They're what I always wanted. So if you make any kind of videos and you want some microphones, I really suggest those DJI microphones in the little black case. Shout out to Dorian Satoshi Nakamoto. I talked to Crypto Graffiti a little bit. He says he's still in touch with him, and he almost got him to come to the convention. I can't imagine if he came, he would be absolutely mobbed. So many different booths were using Dorian's image to advertise their stuff. He's a real person. They just kind of pirate his image now and say that he's Satoshi Nakamoto. But so it goes. Shout out to Dorian. Unintendedly the face of Bitcoin. And yeah, it was a great time. It's a cool convention. They're going to have it here in Vegas again next year. So hopefully if I can get another free ticket, I'll check it out. I was fortunate enough to get an industry day ticket, which means I got in an extra day early, which next year, that's my goal to do more on that first day when it wasn't so crowded. Also, we got free lunch, as Dorian would appreciate, I'm sure. So thanks to everybody for joining us today. Sorry for the lack of panelists. Hope you enjoyed the pictures and the discussion of the Bitcoin conference. It was wild. We were a small fish in a large pond. But again, that's success. Did they talk about Roger Ver? Miss Sheffield asked. Not really. There was a flyer my friend Morgan had with a list of people like Roger, the Tornado Cash guys, so on and so forth, who are in trouble for using Bitcoin, but that was not really the focus. The focus was, as the one video said, stable coins, as I would say in general, digital gold, the idea that Bitcoin makes you rich and wealthy, and that you need to get it so that you can buy a bigger house and a bigger car and money. So, but that's fine. A lot of people are motivated that way. That's what they like. But observationally, that is what I observed. So maybe it'll be different next year. Maybe in 10 years. We'll see. But thanks to everybody for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below and subscribe. Until next time, bye-bye.